Well, hello, thank you for joining me today again in the Church History Trail. And I'm continuing our wee dander through my library. And this is the last bookcase then that I'm going to show you. And I will hopefully try and not be long with this one because the last one was about 30 minutes. So hopefully this one won't be as long. But there's a wee book here I want to show you. And again, I mentioned this man in the last video. And it's David Wilkerson. And I mentioned the great work that David done with Teen Challenge. And that was the wee book that he wrote, The Cross and the Switchblade. And of course, that was a true story. It was the best-selling inspiration of the venture of all times, it says at the top. And it was turned into a film as well. And God done a fantastic work with his servant David. And then we follow up to that book, which most people will... what's familiar with David Wilkerson will know of that book, but they won't know of this wee follow-up book that he done, which was 12 Angels from Hell, and it's ex-drug addicts and prostitutes giving their testimonies of how they got deliverance through Christ. And that's a good wee book too. Not as well known, or not as popular as the first wee book, The Cross and the Switchblade, but that is actually the follow-up. And then there's another wee book here I have of David, and it's this one here. Set the Trumpet to Thy Mouth, Hosea 8 verse 1 by David Wilkerson. And it says here on the back, Set the trumpet to thy mouth, I set watchmen over you, saying, Hearken to the sound of the trumpet. But they said, We will not hearken. And so there you are, that's another wee book by David Wilkerson. And that's another one there too, actually. That one there is Victory Over Sin and Self. And let me see this one. I think this is Tory. Yep, this is R.A. Tory. A lot of you will be familiar with this author. How to Find Fullness of Power in Christian Life and Service. And of course that's very important because our power is the Holy Spirit, isn't it? Jesus says, I give you power. You shall receive power when the Holy Spirit shall come upon you. Another wee book there by Tory, Heaven or Hell. And of course, a lot of people don't preach then in hell. But hell's real, just as heaven is real. And there's a heaven to gain and a hell that we need to avoid. And the only way to avoid it is through Christ. And that's another wee book there by Wilkerson, actually. Have you felt like giving up lately? And I'm sure many Christians have felt like that. Now, let's see what else we have here. That's another one by David Wilkerson. God's Plan in the Coming Depression. David Wilkerson. And here's a wee book here. A lot of you will know if this is A.W. Tozer, sorry. A.W. Tozer, and it's Why Revival Tarries. And it's Leonard Ravenhill. So a lot of you will be familiar with Leonard Ravenhill. He was a mighty man of God as well. But the foreword is actually by A.W. Tozer, but the book itself is by Leonard Ravenhill. And it's Why Revival Tarries. Of course, both those men were mightily used by God, weren't they? And then this wee book, this is an American, and it's James Reed. And that was James before conversion. And that's James after conversion. God certainly made a difference in his life, didn't he? He was a drug addict. He was wild. He was in a bad way. And that's James as a boy. God certainly done a wonderful work in his life. And then there's a couple other wee books here, testimonies. And that's Back from the Brink. Again, Noel Davidson is a fantastic... he's a fantastic editor. He publishes a lot of books, does people's testimonies, you know. But that's Chris Killam. And Chris was a rebellious skinhead, as it says there, an addict. And I knew Chris because he used to hang about with my cousin, and both of them were skinheads. And the Lord done a mighty work in Chris's life. There he's there and saved them. And he was doing, I'm not sure if he still is, but he was doing a great work in Dublin. That's Chris Killam. A great servant of the Lord. And then another book here is by another man, Out of the Maze Prison. And this is by the Reverend Thomas Martin. And of course Thomas in his paramilitary days. The Lord saved him out of paramilitarism and changed his life completely around. And that's another fantastic wee book as well. And there you can see Thomas. The Lord does a mighty change in a person's life, doesn't he? And there's other wee books there as well. There's Sproul, Finney, and there's a couple of wee commentaries. There's a few wee commentaries. There's Man Speaks from God, and then the Sermon on the Mount. And what else have we got? There's a couple of wee books there I'm going to mention. And again, it's by M.R. DEHAAN. And it's the chemistry of the blood. Very good wee book, that one. So it is. Very good wee book. Because obviously he was a doctor as well. And he's brilliant on that. And then there's another one that I enjoyed by him. Law or Grace. M.R. DEHAAN. It's a question of the law or grace. And so that's Law or Grace. And then another wee book here, a couple of books here I'll mention. This one here is The Hodder and Stockton Book of Famous Christians by Tony Kessels. Enjoyed that book. I got that book also with another book up in Kessel. I think it was Cooley, you call the place, up in Fermanagh. And so I enjoyed that wee book as well. That's packed. It's got Father Christmas and everybody in that. St. Nicholas. A great wee book. It's like really like an encyclopedia, you know. And then there's the Hodder and Book of Christian Quotations, which is also good for preachers. If you're looking quotations for putting your sermons of men of God, and that's by Tony Castle as well. So Tony's in his day has put a lot of work into those books. And let me see if there's anything else I want to mention. Oh, there's one there. That's Darby, John Nelson Darby. And it's Max S. Wordhamchuk, but that's the biography of John Nelson Darby. And this is very extensive. I would recommend this. Now, this is I've only bought this very recently, so I haven't actually got reading this one yet. But I looked through it, and it looks fantastic. And he goes into a lot of stuff in Darby's life, so I'll be looking forward to getting into this one. And so before even I've read it, I've looked through it, and I certainly would recommend it. So I'm looking forward to that one. And then there's a couple of books here I'm going to mention. And I mentioned this one here on another video. It was the author himself mentioned it, Alan McElwain. Everyday Sayings and the Bible. And of course, people use everyday sayings and they never think where they've come from. And a lot of the sayings have come from the Bible. And they just never think where they come from. So that's the first book he done on that. And then he done a second book as well, which is more everyday sayings and the Bible, again by Alan McElwain. And again, they're good for sermons. You can use them for putting in your sermons. And let me see if there's commentaries, some wee commentaries there. Timothy. And who else have we got? Joshua, Gideon. There's a few on the Psalms there. And I'll mention this couple of more wee books and that'll do it. This one here is again by F.F. Bruce, who I mentioned in another wee video, The Brethren Man. And it's Places They Knew, Jesus and Paul. And it's great to get books like that, and I'll tell you for why. Because it gives you the land, it gives you the places, it gets you familiar with customs and, you know, the people of the day. And so it's good to know context for your sermons. And these are great for that, and also gives you historical information. So it's great for that. These sort of books are brilliant for that, for context. And then this is the last wee book that I'm going to mention. And this wee book is actually the Elam 100 Years. And it's Defining Moments. And I'll just quickly show you some of this here. Make sure I'm zoomed out. In fact, I'm too close. That's better now. You can see a bit better. And that's Defining Moments. And that's John Glass. And I don't think John is actually the general superintendent now. I think it's another man. I think he's the previous superintendent. There you can see that gives you a bit of the history. The Pentecostal outpouring, century of Pentecost. That's Perham. And there's Evan Roberts. That was the Welsh revival, 1904, 1905. And that's Azusa Street and Los Angeles. That's the building there where the Pentecostal revival took place. And this is a man here. And that's William Seymour. And so God used William Seymour and the outpouring at Azusa Street. And there you can see the Azusa Mission. And there's a couple other early Pentecostals. That's Alexander Buddy and T.B. Barrett. There's Wigglesworth. He was a plumber, Smith Wigglesworth. And the Lord used him mightily. And that is Mary Buddy. And she's the wife, if I remember rightly, of Alexander. And there's Jeffreys. George Jeffreys. The story of George Jeffreys' beginnings. And that's him as a child. George Jeffreys as a child. Fantastic, isn't it? It's good to have these books, you know. And then it goes on. That's Pastor William Hutchison. And there's Polehill, Cecil Polehill. And there you go. Sunderland. And there's the Elam Evangelistic Band. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed our wee dander through my library. And I trust that the Lord bless you.